My major in college was mathematics, and back then, especially in high school leading to college, there were no calculators available. So the tool we had to use then was the slide rule for doing the calculations. Uh, After college, I went into the military for 28 years. Then I shifted to teaching about 12 years ago. And at that point, I had to do the mental shift from slide rule to using calculators and teaching in the classroom. There's a lot of things with the slide rule that students don't get now when they use calculators. Slide rules require a solid understanding of ratios and proportions. It also requires a strong knowledge of how to convert numbers like scientific notation. None of those things are required when you're now using a calculator. You really have to think through on how you're going to go about solving that calculation as opposed to just putting numbers in and hitting the key. There's all the scales on the slide rule that you're going to have to know which ones to use to solve a given type of problem. Yeah, I don't think you would use the slide rule for every little calculation like people do today. In other words, we have students who will immediately go grab a calculator just to multiply two-digit numbers together. You wouldn't waste the time to bring out the slide rule just to multiply two-digit numbers together. I would venture a guess that a basic slide rule back then probably was in the $10 to $20 range. Okay, so to multiply on the slide rule, I'm going to use the C scale and the D scale. I take the index on the C scale, which is the number 1, and I put it on top of one of the numbers I'm multiplying together. So if I do put the 1 on top of the 2, then if I want to multiply 2 times 2, I just move this down on top of the 2 on the C scale, and I can read my answer down on the D scale, so a 4. If I wanted to do the 2 times the 3, then I would just move it down to the 3 there, and I'd read my answer 6 on the D scale. Division then is just the reverse of that. If I wanted to say divide 8 by 5, I'd put the 5 right on top of the 8, and I could read my answer over here on the D scale, where the index is at. The first scientific one that I recall was somewhere about widely available scientific one was probably available about 1973, just after I graduated from college. And the breakthrough on it was it had the trig functions on it. And that calculator cost about $200 in 1973 dollars. Calculators we use here in school would have taken a whole classroom, a computer the size of a classroom when I went to college to do the same calculations. But it would still have done the same. It's just mainly size and ease of use. Slide rule probably was the first thing that let the average person actually do some number calculations rather than just doing it on a piece of paper and writing all around the classroom on chalkboards. It was I would say it was an evolutionary step. Now I know every classroom who heavily used slide rules would have one hanging in the front of the classroom that was about 7 or 8 feet long, so the teacher then could explain how to use the slide rule by moving, so it would have a complete model of it that took 7 or 8 feet in front of the classroom. The precision of the outcome is very dependent on how precise you are in lining up the scales on the calculator. And so you can only get so many digit accuracy out of your calculations. If you ever break the little slider on the top of it, you're not going to get any calculations out of it at all. It's sort of like running out of batteries in a calculator, that you're dead. You just can't can't do anything anymore. The technology is just evolving. If you just think about TVs evolving, you know, radio went to TV and now we're down to 3D TVs and they're all real thin LEDs, and we're just making that same point.